Hello, welcome to the Humanitarian Voices, a monthly podcast from Human Angle. I'm Ahmad Salkida, your host. Humanitarian Voices is a podcast from Human Angle in collaboration with humanitarian organizations. Here, we discuss and spotlight the different forms of humanitarian crisis across Africa and what it means to the livelihoods and quality of life of the persons affected. We partner with and speak to humanitarian organizations for deeper understanding. For this episode, however, we will be highlighting the experiences of displaced women in Borno State in the absence of aid. Just how important is aid to them, especially now that they have been resettled in towns outside Maiduguri, the state capital. The stigma they face as a result of the circumstances of their displacement and resettlement is also another problem they complain bitterly about. They are profiled as wives of insurgents, even though they are themselves victims of the insurgency. Let's hear from them about their incarcerated husbands.
My name is Yagana Modu. My husband's name is Baba Ganabulama. I'm from Bama local government. I was separated from my husband for 8 years. In that period, I suffered a lot. My tent was burned down. I could hardly feed my family, and I had to send my children to hawk and do some labor in the market. We managed whatever amount we could get to buy food. I then started a small business selling cola nuts and chin-chin, but it did not last because eventually I used the capital to feed us. We cannot afford to buy detergent. We just soak our clothes in plain water to rinse the sweat and use it again. When my husband was released, he didn't have anything and had nothing to do. Now he goes to farm in Ngurusoye and works as a laborer. Whenever he goes to the farm, he stays for a month, and when he is away, the family is in my care. The hike in food prices is making our condition worse. We still don't know what our husbands did that they were detained for 8 years. Now it's been 2 years since my husband was released from detention with no compensation or any support from the government. Before our husbands were detained, the government told us that they were going to take us to where we will not suffer, and that's when they separated us from our husbands. Even Boko Haram repentants are being resettled with good shelter and compensation. If these repentants are compensated, then our husbands who were wrongfully detained for years deserve compensation more than anyone.
My name is Karu Bulama. My husband's name is Bulama. We were displaced from Gudumburi in Bama local government. We suffered in Gudumburi before we came to Bama. Later, we were relocated to the Dalori side. At the Dalori side, our husbands were released. They didn't have anything to do when they were released. They depended on us to feed. From the little we get, we buy rice worth 50 to 100 naira and cook it with a lot of onion leaf. But it is the same as drinking cold water. It does nothing. At the Dalori camp, WFP gave us food before we were relocated to Ngurusoye. The government constructed poor huts that leak when it rains and took us there. I recently gave birth in the hut. Sometimes soldiers allow our husbands to go to the bush to pick mangoes for us to eat and sell. Later, soldiers complained of Boko Haram hiding in the mango trees, and they instructed people to go and cut down the trees for them to sell the wood. I would escort my husband to cut the mango trees. I would help him pull the wheelbarrow. I later stopped going with him when I was heavily pregnant and I couldn't be of any help. My husband wasted 8 years in the barrack and they did not compensate him with anything. Our host community reports us to the soldiers for finishing their trees because we are cutting them down. And before we were displaced, we did not know anything about cutting trees to sell. We are farmers. We farm carrots, peppers, onions, tomatoes, and other vegetables. Our children need school, and there is no school. There is no hospital. If we get sick in the night, you have to wait till morning to go to the hospital. That is if you are lucky to survive the night. The hospital is located in Burma. If the governor had allowed the NGOs to feed us, they would have done it happily. If the government will take care of us, let them do it. If they cannot, they should please let the NGOs continue helping us.
My name is Yagana Mamman. I'm a member of the Nifa Women's Movement. I've been displaced for over 9 years. For 9 years, I didn't know where my husband was. In the morning, I send my children for hawking, and the smaller ones go to beg in Gambaru Market. Early in the morning, we all go to Gambaru Market maize grinding section to pick grains of maize from the previous day's grinding. I also work at the grinding section, where I'm paid to pick dirt from maize before grinding. Together we feed ourselves. I've never received assistance throughout my stay as an IDP. Now, all my children are grown up without education. If we cook in the morning, we cannot afford to cook in the evening, and that's how our cycle goes on. I do not know whether my husband is alive or not. The governor should please stop talking about sending away NGOs. He should urge them to help us, because they are also supporting him in helping us. We are in dire need of NGO intervention. He should please stop talking about sending them away.
As we wrap up this episode, I leave you with a question. Just how pivotal is aid to displaced people? Could it be the difference between life and death for some of them? Thank you for listening. If you would like to offer feedback or draw our attention to something, kindly leave a comment down below in the comment section or send us an email at info@humananglemedia.com. Don't forget to also like and subscribe to this channel for more. See you again next month.